This video I'm going to give you 12 insider tips on how to start a film festival.
Are you listening?
My name is Timothy Schultz. I'm the founder of the Mile High Horror Film Festival, which I founded in 2010. I am also a filmmaker. I've played many film festivals, but today we're talking about how to start a film festival. I definitely have some tips that I'm super excited to share with you. Before I get to that, if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I do weekly how-to videos as well as interviews with the most compelling people I can find, having to do with film, fortune, and fame. But right now, let's get to my 12 insider tips on how to start a film festival. Tip number 1, research and learn. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. There are already thousands of film festivals out there. So go ahead and find some festivals that you respect and reach out to those people who are running those festivals, who are directing those festivals, who founded those festivals, and pick their brain, get some consultation, ask them how they're doing it. What is their business model? Kind of get an idea for the backbone of how a film festival works before you even put anything in motion. That's what I did before I founded the Mile High Horror Film Festival. I went out and reached out to a handful of festival directors across the country, across the United States that I respected, and I met with them either on the phone or in person. And I'm so thankful and grateful for their help because it really, really helped me understand how a film festival operates, a successful one that you respect, and I wasn't starting from zero and trying to create anything that hasn't already been done. So tip number 2, for-profit or nonprofit. Now, there are pros and cons to both. If you're a nonprofit, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make money. In fact, it's easier for most festivals who are a nonprofit to get money because it's a tax write-off for businesses and people. But at the same time, you have a board of people and you don't have as much perhaps creative control or control in other ways of how the festival operates. So there are pros and cons. I will do another video in more detail on that. I would say the majority of the larger festivals out there are indeed nonprofits. But you can always change, if you want to start as an LLC or another type of entity, you can always change over to a nonprofit at another time. But you should decide what you want to be before you start the festival, because you definitely don't want to run it just under your own name. You want to put it under a business. Tip number 3, choose the right genre. So take a look at what the competition is where you live, in your state, in your city. Is there another all-genre festival that's absolutely huge? Are there multiple festivals? Say maybe you just want to do comedies. Is there a comedy festival already? If so, take a look at that and don't run at the same time of the year. And also choose a genre where, well, most importantly, it's a genre that you love, because you're going to be watching quite a few of these films and you have to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, why would you do it? So choose the right genre that's best for you, and also the genre that is desirable from a business standpoint that doesn't have as much competition. That would be my advice. Tip number 4, create a website. You definitely want to have a website, a professional looking website, not just an amateur looking website. I have learned over the years that you don't want to cut corners on a website, because that is what people look at and see and understand. And especially when you're starting a film festival, no one has been to your film festival. So what are they doing? They're just taking your word for it that it's going to be cool. So you have to create a website that visually shows the representation of what your festival is going to be, what it's going to look like, and why people should want to come. So definitely don't skimp on the website. And that doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars on a website. There, you can find people that aren't necessarily as expensive, but you should definitely put in the energy and time and effort and whatever it takes to try and have a very professional looking website. Tip number 5, find the right venue. So depending on where you live, you'll probably have multiple potential theaters to host your film festival. So you need to scout these places, meet with some people, get some quotes, and also learn some things such as what is their exhibition ability? Do they, can they project 35 millimeter if that's something that you want to project? Do they use DCP? How do they operate? How professional are they? Because that's another thing. When people come to your film festival, they're not only going to be judging your staff, but they're going to be judging the theater itself, and you want them to have a pleasurable experience. How many seats are there in the theater versus how much are you going to charge? How much is the theater charging you to be there? Or perhaps you can get a partnership deal where you're paying less or nothing at all because partnership deal, but although that is more difficult to do when you're just starting off. Another thing to take into account with a venue is the marketing. Do they have a marketing reach? Are they willing to collaborate with marketing? Perhaps they have an email list or a social media following. These are things to take into account also when choosing a venue. And lastly, are they respected not only by fans but by filmmakers? If you're in a respected venue, I think it is more enticing to filmmakers and distributors alike to want to have their films play at your festival. Tip number 6, find out the logistics. So there are so many logistics and aspects to a film festival that as a fan or a filmmaker you might not be aware of. In fact, many festival directors have told me that they believe that producing a film festival is actually more difficult than producing a film. Now that's very controversial and it depends who you talk to, but what we can agree on is that there are many, many details to a film festival if you want it to run smoothly. For example, are you going to have people judging the films? How is that going to work? Are you going to do awards? Are you going to have vendors at the festival? Are you going to have parties? How are these things going to run smoothly? Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to be in charge of your volunteers? Is there accountability? How are you going to get the films to the projectionist in a format that they can play at the theater? If you're playing a short film package, you have to get all of the films in one screening. You have to put them in the order that you want them to be. You have to get a program designed. The details go on and 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 on. So you get the point. So the details go on, and you want to learn as many of the logistics as possible and work with your staff to make sure that the festival runs as smoothly as possible. And the earlier you start doing this, the better. Tip number 7, choose the dates. So this is kind of the fun part, to choose the dates for the film festival, because once you do that, it's happening, or most likely happening anyway, you never know. But so choose the dates, be strategic about when the dates are. What other events are happening on that particular weekend that you want to hold it? Make sure you're not running against something where your fans are going to be going to something else because you want them to come to your film festival. So be strategic about choosing the dates. Also, assuming that you hold your festival in a conventional movie theater, keep in mind that there are hot seasons and slow seasons for films. The summer obviously is a really hot season, so is around Christmas. So you might want to plan your festival around those things because you might be able to get a better rate. So tip number 8, create a budget. So this is a very important part of starting a film festival, to have a budget. And I know it's a bit tricky, especially when you start, because you've never held the event before and you probably don't have any idea how much it's going to generate. But I would say try to be conservative and create a budget that's realistic. What do you expect to bring in revenue versus what are your costs? Now, some of the ways that festivals create revenue are through film festival submissions, tickets, passes, sponsorships, merchandise. All of these are ways of generating revenue with a film festival, but there are also many costs that can be involved, such as if you're paying a licensing fee perhaps for a film, or if you're hosting guests, or if the venue is charging you a fee to be there. The costs really can add up very quickly as well. So try to be strategic and conservative in planning your budget, but it is important to have one. And of course, that's going to change as your festival evolves from year to year. I know at the Mile High Horror Film Festival, for example, our attendance pretty much doubled or tripled year after year because people started hearing about it. The word got out and it just kind of snowballed. So that doesn't happen to every film festival, but I can almost guarantee you that your second year is likely going to be bigger than your first. Tip number 9, open for submissions. So most film festivals do accept film submissions, and I highly recommend it. One of the most popular places to do that is Film Freeway, but there are a number of online sites where you can do that. I will post another video of my reviews and recommendations for those, and I'll put the link below. But it is important to open for film submissions, and you could accept screenplays as well if you want to, or different categories, music, videos, trailer videos. Maybe you live in a specific state and you just want to have films from a specific state for a category. There's a lot of festivals just have the feature film and short film category, but you can get creative and add more if you would like. Opening for submissions is not only beneficial to help you build your film program, but it's also an important part of revenue for the festival. And that doesn't mean that necessarily every filmmaker will have to pay to enter your film festival. I did another video on when I feel that it's okay to ask for a fee waiver. Not every film festival grants a fee waiver, but some film festivals do. And so I gave my insider tips on that in another video, which I will also put in the link below. But in general, it's important for your festival to most likely open for film submissions before it happens. Tip number 10, find your staff. So, no film festival, well, at least most film festivals, are not run by one person. It takes many, many people to run a successful film festival. And so it's important for you to have a staff. And that doesn't mean you need to be paying all kinds of people. The majority of people who work at film festivals do so as a volunteer because they want to be there, because it's fun and it's creative and it's really cool to be involved in a film festival. So go ahead and put the call out for volunteers and then find someone to manage those volunteers. And that doesn't mean that you can't pay anybody. I mean, a lot of the larger film festivals do pay some of their staff members, but they also work with quite a few volunteers. Either way, it's very important to have staff because there are so many different aspects of a film festival that need to run smoothly. It definitely takes a lot of people. When I started the Mile High Horror Film Festival, it was sort of like a one-man show. I was doing quite a bit of it myself, but I wasn't doing everything because I couldn't. So I had a staff even from year one. I had a staff of quite a few people. Tip number 11, have a marketing plan. Come up with a marketing plan because one of the trickiest things for film festivals that are just starting out is filling the seats. How are you going to fill the seats and get the word out that your festival is happening? Now, there are a lot of tactics that film festivals use to get people to show up. Of course, there's social media, press releases. You could do the grassroots marketing with posters and flyers throughout the city, or especially at events with your target audience. Then there are plenty of places online that you can even list your film festival for free for upcoming events. Maybe the theater you're working with also has some marketing that they could potentially do for you. And of course, if you have it in your budget to advertise, then that is something that could also be beneficial. But be careful because you want to make sure that if you're doing that, that your dollars aren't wasted, that they're going towards your target audience, and that people are hearing it or seeing it, and that the result is them clicking to your website and learning about your film festival and ultimately going to your film festival, because there are a lot of advertisers out there that won't necessarily result in people showing up to your film festival. So I highly recommend doing some research and finding out where your audience is. Are they on Facebook? Are they reading a local newspaper in your city? Where are they? And then if you have it within your budget to advertise, then go with that. But regardless, you definitely need a marketing plan, because just because you're having a film festival and you say, oh, I'm having a film festival, come see these films, does not mean people will show up. And I know the first year of the Mile High Horror Film Festival, we did not have a huge turnout, and it's grown every year substantially. But part of that is because I basically had to learn a crash course in marketing and learn what it takes to get people to fill the seats. And then eventually the word just got out, and people tell people, and it gains a reputation. But I would also recommend kind of diversifying your marketing so that you're not just doing one thing. Don't just count on posters or flyers or Facebook or Twitter. Diversify it, because your fans are different places and you want to reach them however you can, and see what works and what doesn't, and then you can modify it next year. Tip number 12, organize the event. Now, this is a very, very important part of hosting a film festival. Is first, it has to be organized very well in order for it to run smoothly. People say that throwing a wedding is really difficult, but throwing a film festival is way more difficult than the average wedding. So believe that. But you want to make sure that the event runs smoothly. So figure out who's doing what, who's responsible for what. Are you having parties? Are you having other events? Who's doing the moderation of the films? There are all these details. Who's going to inform the filmmakers that they've made it into the festival? Who's going to inform the filmmakers for the ones that have not? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so it's important to be very organized, to understand who's doing what. Are you selling merchandise? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? It goes on and on. It'll be the event that you want it to be, but it's going to take organization and a lot of planning. And I said I had 12 tips in this video. I actually have a bonus tip. Tip number 13, bonus tip here. Enjoy the festival. So after all the work is done, hosting a film festival is really fun. You're really creating something that people will enjoy. You're really creating something special, something that didn't exist before. You're bringing people together for the love of cinema. And so it's really something really special. You should be proud of what you're doing and what you built and not give up and just enjoy it. Because the purpose of hosting a film festival, organizing one and throwing one, is to enjoy it. It's to have fun. There are a million other tips on how to start a film festival as well as how to run a successful film festival. There are many, many details. These are just a few of them. I'm sure I'll be doing more videos, but if you found this video helpful, please go ahead and hit the like button and let me know. Is there something I missed that you have a suggestion that can help others? Please put that in the comments below. Consider subscribing to my channel if you are new to it, because I'm doing weekly how-to videos as well as interviews with the most compelling people I can find having to do with film, fortune, and fame. Thank you for watching.